Welcome to Yin and Young. The following is a story taken from Chapter 2. I have called it Reckless Sense of Humour. I hope you enjoy it. Yinlin woke, her head partially covered by the blanket, feeling the cold air against her exposed forehead. Under the covers it was very warm, and she wriggled her body more deeply into the bedding, enjoying the warmth where her grandmother had just been. The government recognized that winter conditions were hard on the people, and continuous improvements to the living standards meant improvements through the provision of central heating. If you lived in the north, that is. The determining question was, how far north does a person need to live in order to qualify for central heating? The Yangtze River, which flows west to east across most of China, was the commonly accepted center line. However, this line, being a river, meandered both south and north, creating a 200-kilometer deviation of center. For those living near the river, however, the dividing line was very clear. Homes on the northern shore had central heating, while those on the opposite shore were apparently warm enough. Yinlin's family lived in Shanghai, which placed them on the southern shore, and they were thus a warm city and didn't require heat. Yinlin slept with her grandmother since she moved in a few weeks earlier. Zhu Jiang had passed away several years ago, and Wu Wen found it difficult to live alone. She kept her house, but had some furniture, especially the large redwood bed, moved to Yinlin's home. Here she sat, quietly laying out clothes for Yinlin to change into for the day. From her position on the bed, Wu Wen could look through the door to observe Yinlin's mother gathering pots for the morning meal. Yinlin, laying in her cocoon of warmth, drifted in and out of sleep, snuggling in the pleasure she felt now that her father was home again. He had been away since he brought the box of gum last summer, and apart from her brief stay at the barracks in August, this was the first time for her to be together with him once again in their home. During the August visit to the military base, Yinlin accompanied her father to a nearby multi-purpose hall. In this building, soldiers practiced drills, played sports, or gathered for ceremonies and presentations. Yinlin followed her father through the entrance. The building was both empty and spacious, with natural light and open-air ventilation, allowing it to be cool on a hot day. Along the far wall was a stage, and above the stage Chairman Mao's reassuring, Buddha-like image was mounted. Yinlin's father was here to arrange an awards ceremony and planned to work out some details with a few junior soldiers. Left to her own devices, Yinlin wandered upstairs to explore. Reaching the top, she rounded the corner which opened to a soldier's dormitory. As Yinlin entered the room, she saw the beds all neatly made and regularly spaced apart in rows. On each bed the soldiers had their bedding folded. Yinlin was impressed that there was not a single wrinkle. So tightly were the bed sheets rolled. She glanced around and observed shelving for clothes and personal items. A row of sewing machines lined the wall closest to the stairwell, and there were tables at the far corner, in which various games were set up, including a board of Chinese checkers. While the hall below was quite large, the upper floor had perhaps half the floor space and a much lower ceiling. Compared to the vast hall downstairs, this area felt close and warm to Yinlin, filled as it was with signs of personal care and domestic comfort. Despite her solitude, Yinlin felt as if she were surrounded by goodwill and welcome. A repair job was underway, in which a light fixture for the great hall below was being replaced. This light fixture was accessed through the flooring in the soldiers' quarters, but the repair wasn't finished, and a sizable hole, showing clear through to the floor below, was left to be completed another day. The soldiers had a reckless sense of humor, and instead of marking the hole carefully, they disguised the hole by laying a newspaper over it, a devious trap for their unsuspecting comrades. Yinlin, spying the game tables at the back of the room, ran toward them, and as she came to stop in front of the Chinese checkers, she placed all her weight on the newspaper, which presented no resistance at all, and allowed her entire leg to drop, catching several slivers along the rough wood edge. Her body fell downward while her right foot slipped sideways, and the full weight of her body landed crosswise against the edge of the cut. Yinlin, shocked and in great pain, clambered back out of the hole. Her first and dominant feeling was one of shame. She felt she had done something wrong, and the blood trickling down her leg and into her shoes was going to incriminate her. Yinlin ran the short distance back to where they were staying, and up the stairs. Slipping quietly through the door, she glanced about, looking to see if her mother was in. Finding the room empty, she located a small dry cloth in a basket in the corner, folded it up and rolled it as tight as she could. She placed the dry cloth under her legs and pushed hard. Pulling it back for a look, she saw a big spot of fresh blood had already stained the cloth. She pushed the cloth back and pulled her underclothes up to hold the cloth there. Trying to keep the cloth in place, she waddled back to the hall and found a bench at the back where she could put pressure on the wound by sitting. She picked carefully at the slivers that had stuck in her leg, and realized she would need to go back and wipe the blood off the floor and wash her feet and shoes. As soon as she calmed down and the pain subsided, she threw out her underwear and the cloth. Returning home, she got another rag and fresh underwear. Wetting the rag, she returned to the dorm, wiping the blood off the stairs, and found another newspaper to cover the hole in the floor once again. It took several days before Yinlin could toilet without pain. Walking or moving about was not easy. She dreaded going to the shower with her mother, because her mother always washed under there, making her feel uncomfortable, but this time it would surely hurt more. It was the next day before they used the communal shower, and as soon as Yinlin got undressed, she saw a flap of skin hanging down and quickly pulled it off so her mother wouldn't notice. This drew fresh blood, but went unnoticed in the shower. The washing was uncomfortable as expected, but Yinlin's mother never noticed or suspected anything. Yinlin lay in bed recalling these thoughts in her mind. She squeezed her legs. Thankfully, all pain in that area was a distant memory. Her mind cleared as she woke up more fully. Thinking of these events made her recall a conversation between her mother and father that had taken place earlier in the visit. "Why don't you and Yinlin stay with me?" Tianlong said to Yinlin's mother one evening after they had completed dinner. "You mean with the army?" Zhuyu asked. "All the family could be together and everything is done for you. The food is prepared and there's plenty of it. You don't need to get food supplies or cook or even clean except our room. There are plenty of other military families, which means both you and Yinlin would not be lonely. And above all, the soldiers are very good to Yinlin." "This is no place for Yinlin," she replied.